Hi YouTube, welcome to my channel. This is Leaving Hollywood, where I'm basically resetting my life after running a business of 25 years and after 30 years of working in film, live event, and the entertainment industry as a designer, a fabricator, and an entrepreneur. My wife and I have decided to reset our lives. It was not the plan to do it the way we're doing it, but here we are. Up until last year, I thought we were going to be living up in North Idaho, enjoying this property, investing in the property, making good money down in Southern California, continuing with our business, and eventually turning the business over to our guys. We had a really great team of people there working with us. Many of them had been with us for 15, 16, and even 17 years. And it was a real heartbreak following the actors' strike and the writers' strike to realize that we just couldn't sustain the facility anymore. Running a facility of that size had an operating cost of $80,000 a month, and we went 7 months with almost zero income, and boy, did that hurt. And that was after a writer's strike. The writer's strike and the actors' strike followed that pandemic, and the pandemic, we survived it because we pivoted and got into some industrial manufacturing, but we weren't really making money. As a matter of fact, I don't think for most of the pandemic my wife and I even pulled a paycheck, and we didn't go into debt, but we didn't bring in any income for ourselves. We just kept the business alive, and it looked so hopeful after the pandemic was over and Hollywood opened up. And then that actor strike and the writer's strike, really, it was just too much. And even right now in December, being that I'm still connected to the industry, many of my friends are still talking about having to close, and because the writers and the actors created a slowdown that they're not going to really do any big projects until after the new year. It just didn't make sense. So they'll start the projects in January, but it'll be February, March before shops start seeing that trickle in as set construction or special effects or, whatever your support business for the entertainment industry is. There's going to be a delay because first they've got to get into funding, and then they've got to get into prep. Then they've got to set their schedules and get their locations. So it's kind of crazy, and it's all going down in an election year. So I think we made the right call of getting out. I mean, we had to because we were going to go bankrupt, honestly. That $80,000 a month hurt. It hurt really bad. It wiped out 20 years of savings my wife and I had. So we've decided to protect the property and then move what equipment we were able to keep up to the property. There's my trailer. That's got a mill and a lathe and a sheet metal shop and a full machine setup in there. I've got some welders under there. Got a lot of cool stuff under there. That's going to stay on the trailer until springtime. I've basically got the winter right now to get the shop as outfitted as I can, and there's a lot to do just in the next couple weeks. Luckily, it hasn't been a very snowy winter so far, but that can change in the next 20 minutes. You just never know up here. But they're saying this is an El Nino winter, so it's wetter than it is whiter. So we don't have a lot of snow. So far, so good. And hopefully it gives me at least a couple more weeks that I can be down here and work sort of freely. Once it gets cold, I'm 53, things start happening. The muscles in my back and my bones start hurting. But like today, it's 38 degrees. It's a mild day and I can handle this. But let's talk about what we've got to get going on in here. So this is the back end of the barn. This was an addition that the property owner must have put on some years ago. And from what I heard, he just did this to get his goats out of the weather and to put some hay up in this loft that he did. All of this has basically got to get redone. This is probably the one better slab of the two. Once we go inside, you'll see that the main barn here is really lacking. The floor is probably 50 or 60 years old, and it's just not doing really well, especially since I started pulling cars and stuff in. It just keeps cracking and sort of sinking. So this is definitely not going to be a permanent shop floor. That's a brand new crack right there from when we came in here with the forklift. It was a tiny forklift too. and just the whole floor is cracked up real bad. And, you know, I'm going to make it work for now. I don't really have any other choice. Now, a couple things I've got to do in here to get up and get running is get the climate under control. I did one of these 55-gallon stove kits, or what do they call it, a camp stove or a camp heater. Luckily, there's a handful of 55-gallon drums here that didn't have anything in them. And I went out to a local hardware store and I bought this kit that's called a camp stove kit, which comes with the cast iron door, a flue, and all the pieces to basically convert the drum. You know, it's got the feet that it came with. And then I bought some stove pipe, and I used an existing hole in the side of the barn. I think he had like a wood burning stove or something in here years ago. And it's okay if you're standing next to it and you don't mind breathing in smoke. But I think it needs one of these larger units where you stack the two barrels and you create a heat exchanger on there. I'm learning all that off YouTube. I don't want to sound like I actually know what I'm talking about. So I bought a few more kits. They're really affordable. They're like $80. So I've got enough to do 2 single wood burners and then 2 with the second barrel as a heat exchanger. And then I've learned on YouTube, if you blow a fan through the heat exchanger or across it, it'll help move the warm air in the shop space. But it's kind of it's an uphill battle because this barn isn't insulated. And once it gets into the single digits or the the below freezing numbers, well, that's going to be a different story. I don't think that those heaters are going to be very effective at all. And they go through a lot of wood. If you're trying to let, a lot of heat out of them, the wood burns faster. And so I would have to have like just a huge supply of firewood over here and constantly be feeding it while I'm trying to work. And I'm worried that having a couple of those type of heaters in the barn, it might just get too smoky for me. So what I've done in the meantime, so I can actually build those heaters, is I went out and I bought one of these multi-fuel 185,000 BTU heaters, and I can run that here, but I've got to keep both ends of the barn open, or I suffocate myself. So it's not a long-term solution, but boy, does it make it at least manageable down here. I was actually working here the last 2 nights, getting some stuff up off the ground, just kind of getting some of this stuff so I can make sense of what's what. I've got so many supplies and items from my old facility that when we were moving, it was kind of in a hurry. So I didn't organize anything. I didn't do a lot of labeling. So right now, these are just up on the shelf so I can see what I've got. And I probably need 8 more of these shelves here, these big, semi-industrial, light industrial shelves. I've got to go get more of those. That's actually where I'm going to go right after I do this video, is go down and pick up some supplies. I want to add more of these shelves, so I'll probably do 2 or 3 more of the shelves today. I'm going to buy some 2x4s to at least build some sort of a makeshift workbench and a chop saw table. And I'm going to set something up so I can put my table saw together. Now, once I get that going, at least I'll have air compressor, basic wood shop tools, a single welder, and some metal grinding stuff. I've got a belt sander, it's called a Burr King, and I've got my big grinder over there in the corner and a couple drill presses in here. Once I get those set up, then I can actually start doing some of the build out in here. But I can't get too carried away with it because I've got to be focusing on the heat. And then you can tell from the lighting, I need to get a way better lighting solution in here. But to do the lighting, this is just like one of those, it's like Pandora's box. We've got to address the electrical in here. This is pretty awful. It's, I think it's got 5 breakers on it that only leave the barn with 2 outlets on the inside. Most of these electrical leads, which are questionable at best, these lines coming out go outside of the barn to power some water pumps and an electric gate at the front of our property. The barn itself does not really have any electrical in it whatsoever, just those 2 outlets. And with the amount of equipment I'm bringing in, I need at least 200 amps, if not 400 amps. So there's gonna be a bigger panel. There's gonna be a full electrical job done here. I'm thinking to do it myself, but being that I don't have a lot of ladders or a genie lift, I might just call an electrical contractor, bite the bullet, have them do it, and then, they'll be done with it in a few days. And then I can actually start, plugging things in and have some sort of a work efficiency so I can get everything at least to a baseline where I can start working on projects, and the main project being getting the barn ready. So that's kind of where I'm at today. I'm going to head down to Home Depot and check out a couple of hardware stores. I need screws, nails, bolts. I'm just going to grab a couple of those flat carts. I'm just going to load it up with a bunch of common building materials. I really don't know what all I need, but being that the closest hardware store is like 15 miles away, I got to stock up on just things like wire. Both, household electrical wire and project wire, multi-strand wire, everything from 22 gauge down to 4 gauge, just for the type of things I like to do and the sort of projects I've got on my mind. All that's got to happen. And, I really do want to get, thanks for reminding me, guys. Telling you guys this, I just realized I wanted to buy some argon so my welder's ready to go. And I might as well stop by and pick up some, sticks of metal and a couple plates of steel, at least get some sort of a welding table and a steel workbench going. So that's the immediate plan. I'm looking forward, guys, to coming back and getting a channel going where we're actually working on projects and getting into some build fabrication things. And then I'll explain a little bit more of what my business strategy is, what the business model is, how I'm going to market myself, and what sort of a customer base we're going to go after. This is a huge learning curve for me, but it's a very exciting time of our life. And I'd appreciate it if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing and following along. I know it's going to take a couple videos to convince you guys of that, so I'll be as consistent as I can. And I'm looking forward to this, and I'll see you guys on the next video. I don't know how to end these things. Bye.